You are watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftacademy.com. www.netsoftacademy.com.
So now let's start with scenario number 10. Scenario number 10 is one forest, 3 domains, and one child domain in that. So this is a scenario wherein you have one parent company and 3 sub companies within it, and you want communication to happen between all of them. So first, let's start by creating our forest root domain. So each of these domains will have its own independent mail server, domain controller, and a workstation, and one user. So we'll try to keep it simple. We'll first create the domain controller. Then we will create the Exchange server. And while the Exchange server would be installing, if possible, we will try to multitask and set up the second domain controller. Now, there's another way of doing this as well. There's another way of approaching this. You could you could first set up all 3 of your domain controllers, then start with the Exchange server installation. But I prefer completing one block of infrastructure in one go before moving to the next. So let's start. First things first, local server. Make sure that the name and everything is correct. IP address. Now we are going to go with 170.16.10.10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. We have 9 virtual machines in this one. So also make sure of that. Only give your Exchange servers maybe 6 GB or 8 GB of memory, and give the remaining all of the machines, the domain controllers and the workstations, the lowest amount possible. That will save a little bit on your end in terms of resources. And if you have anything else running in the background, please make sure to stop that in the background, because that will eat up your computational resources or the RAM available to your entire to your base operating system and everything else, and it could cause issues. All right, so IP address done. Add roles and features, 3 next. Select Active Directory domain services, add features, 3 next, and install. Now I'll wait for this to complete and then we'll pick up. Okay, so I'm going to promote the server to a domain controller, add a new forest. Now it's the first one. So everything after this will be add a new domain to an existing forest. Remember that. So this one, I'm going to name it netsoftacademy.com. Let me just change the font here, netsoftacademy.com. Now it's all until the end. Now it's just DSRM password is password 1350, password 1350. And it is next all the way until install here. This is pretty standard stuff from our end. Now, the really important and the really crazy part comes in. When I say crazy, I mean in a good sense. I don't mean cuckoo crazy. I mean good crazy. All right. Let's be clear. The really crazy part comes in when we want to add more roles and add the schema and everything. I'll explain it to you in a bit, but let's first get the first domain completely set up. Then when we are looking at the second domain, you'll understand what I mean by it. Okay, now I'll install this. Now, while this is installing, I will navigate to my Nita MBXS01 machine, and I'll just domain join this machine. Now, yes, while you are here, you might notice that some of my machines are slower, some of them are faster. That is mostly because of how I have calibrated or distributed my resources. All right, so this is here. I'm going to log in and I'm just going to domain join this machine, and I'll start the Exchange server prerequisite installation. Now, the immediate question that you would have is, hey, how can you domain join something when the domain isn't yet available? Now, once the computer restarts, once the domain controller restarts, you would be able to do a few other things. So I'll show you in a bit. Let me first set up the IP address first. Properties, Internet Protocol version 4, use the following IP address. So this will use 172.16.10.20, 172.16.10.1, and lastly, the preferred DNS would be 172.16.10.10. Okay, this is good. Now, here, if you notice, it is restarting. I'll wait for my domain controller to restart. Now, obviously, you might have had some questions about, okay, why exactly are we waiting? I'll explain to you in a second. As soon as the blue screen comes up where we are configuring and loading all of the other settings. When that shows up, I'll explain to you what exactly I mean. When I say I can domain join, do I recommend? No. But do I want to just show you that it is possible? Yes. Now, is it a good idea? Absolutely not. It could fail. You never know. It's very unpredictable. See? It could fail. It could just fail because here it is not configured properly. So it is a bad idea for that very reason. So we'll have to wait for this. So we'll let this complete and then we'll move on to the next few steps. Now, if you notice over here, this is still my ADDS01 is still here, but I'm able to do this part here. So while this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, I don't recommend using it for this very reason that I don't want a new problem to be there when I can easily resolve the problem in a much more simpler manner. Now you see my domain controller is here. It's restarted. I'm going to log in. Yes, this is my root domain controller. So first things first, I will ensure that my IP address is clearly defined. Remember, I did mention this that even if on the surface it looks like, oh hey, everything is fine, and even if it is connecting, I just don't want to have a new problem on my hands when I am trying to connect or when I'm trying to domain join something or I'm trying to work with multiple virtual machines across the same network. It's just me. All right, then I'll go to Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. I'll create one OU called Chrono, and under that one user called, let's say, Bruce Lee here. blee@netsoftakademy.com. Password 1350. Password 1350. Password never expires. Next and finish. Okay. Now I'm going to mount the Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO here over here. And I'll start the process. You can see it's already mounted. So all I need to do is go to PowerShell. It's on D drive. Now again, remember the commands that we have? Remember these commands? I'm going to enter these commands one after the other, and I'm just going to start the process over here. Now, while these commands are running over here, I can also do one more task. I can, on parallel, I can just start the prerequisite installation on NITA MBXS01. Now, why would I want to do that? Maybe just because I want to save a little bit of time. But do I recommend doing that? No. I want one task done at a time. You already saw how if I try to do multitasking, sometimes things would work, sometimes things would not work. We don't want that uncertainty. We want certainty that this will work for sure. This is 100% going to work. That is the guarantee I want. So I'll just do this task first, then we will go with the prerequisite installation, restart, and then complete the task over there. All right, you can see that the first command is done. And similarly, we are going to do the entire thing, but I'll be doing it completely off the screen so that because you already know these steps. So this will just be a little bit of the same repetition that we are doing again. So at this point, my prerequisite installations for Exchange Server are done. Now remember one thing, there is this one exclusive thing that we forget about when we talk about Exchange servers or Active Directory or something else, and that is the FISMO rules. So any change that has to be made to the entire forest now only goes through the first domain controller, that is NITA ADDS01. So it is the schema master, it is the domain naming master, it is the PDC, it is the RID, it is the infrastructure master. It controls everything. So every single aspect that covers the entire forest is being handled by this one server. So by doing these commands here, we'd never have to repeat the same commands on any of the other servers. Everything will be run on this again. If you want to, you can. Otherwise, it is not a big deal. Now, while everything was happening, I ended up installing all the prerequisites necessary. So I can just start with the Exchange server installation after I restart the computer here. Now, in this scenario, everything is a mailbox. There is no transport, there is no edge role, there is no anything else. So we don't have to worry too much about it. Now, as soon as this is done, I'll keep the workstations towards the, I'll just domain join the workstations and I'll keep them off for the entirety of the scenario until the very end, just like how we did previously. I would like, however, my Edge server, my Exchange servers, not Edge, please excuse me, my Exchange servers to be 100% running, my domain controllers to be 100% running. All right. I'm going to log in first. All my prerequisite installations are done. So I'm just going to mount. I'm going to mount the Exchange Server 2019 ISO over here. And open it with the help of autoplay. As you already know, I enjoy using autoplay. It makes my life a whole lot easier, if I'm being quite honest. So I'll let it run. Once it pops up over here, we'll get start on the Exchange Server installation process. And while the Exchange Server is installing, we will transition to domain joining our workstation and setting up or creating our child domain or the forest root domain, depending on the sequence of events here. So both of these will be done. We'll start with the domain controller. We'll just start the process. We'll get the domain controller sorted out. So then we can just focus on only on the Exchange server part later on. And I'll explain how it all works together very well. Active Directory is a very important product, and by knowing the basics or the foundations of all of this, you are actually making your IAM concepts or identity and access management concepts very strong. This is the foundation. It is not the only thing out there, but it is the foundation. Remember that. As you can see, the setup is working a little bit quicker over here. And yes, make sure to distribute your resources in a very organized manner again. Remember, don't overcommit resources, don't undercommit resources. Just commit enough. I'm just waiting for the setup to start. Here we go. Next, next, next. Mailbox role. Next, next. Disable malware scanning. Yes. Next. And once the prerequisites are configured and everything is sorted out, then we will move on to the next step, that is installing. And then while it is installing, we would also domain join the workstation and start setting up our child domain or forest root domain, whichever one is necessary first. Okay, so then this is installing. So I'll now move on to my workstation 1 over here. So workstation 1, I'm just starting. I'll just domain join. Remember, I'll just domain join and that's it. I'll shut down the machine right away. I'll complete my domain join, I'll shut down the machine, then we'll move on to ADDS02. This IP address here will be 172.16.10.30, 30. As soon as it loads up. Now remember that there is enough load on this computer that it can sort of just be a little bit too much. So that is one of the reasons why I'm just going to domain join and shut down this workstation. I don't want it running in the background and consuming resources which I can dedicate to other workstations or something else. 10.30. And yes, your laptop will also start sounding like a helicopter during this scenario. Don't worry about it. Nothing will go wrong. It does happen. In case, if you notice, if you really pay a little bit of attention, you will even hear my laptop acting like a helicopter. Yep, done. Okay, close. Restart later. Because I'm going to shut down. I'm going to manually shut down the computer rather than restart it and then shut down. I'm going to shut down the computer myself. You can see my on Nita MBXS 001, everything is happening. Now, also one more thing. You guys are 9 virtual machines. I am going to stumble over the names. It is a, that is why I'm saying do one entire forest or one entire domain at a time. Don't go with both, don't try to multitask too much. It could turn into a big disaster. So while this is installing, my ADDS01 is all set, right? Everything is all set. So I am going to go to ADDS02. I'm going to power on this virtual machine. And while I'm here, I'm going to first check, or I'll see what I need to do. If I may need to make a tree domain or a child domain, and based on that, I'll take my next steps here. But first, we will install the Active Directory domain services at the very minimum. All right. Now, this is all I'm doing is just trying to make sure that during the time that it takes one domain, one Exchange server to get up and running, I can at least get one more domain up and running. All right. So for this one, remember the IP addresses will be, okay, just a second. This is just that VMware tools loading problem, 172.16.10.40. Remember 30 is done, 40. 172.16.10.1 is the gateway. Preferred DNS address is 172.16.10.40. Alternate is 172.16.10.10. So that it is still pointing back to the forest root domain. Remember that. Okay, done. I go on dashboard, add roles and features, 3 nexts. Active Directory domain services, add features, 3 nexts, and install. Now I'll wait for this to complete installation before I decide what to do next. All right. So the ADDS installation is done. So we'll now promote the server to a domain controller. Now here, instead of adding a domain controller to an existing domain or a new forest, I'm going to select the second option, add a new domain to an existing forest. And the very first option is a child domain. Now the name here is going to be NetSoft Academy.com. And when I click on select, the credentials to select will come in. So I'll go for admin, administrator. Okay. I think I forgot the spelling for a second. Administrator and password 1350. NetSoftAcademy.com, because remember we pointed it back to the DNS there. And the new domain name would be Asia. Asia. Next. Oh. Asia.netsoftakademy.com. Oh, wait. Now I figured out what exactly is going wrong here. You see, what happened was we had to change the credentials to administrator at netsoftakademy.com and the password 1350. Now, if I go for next, see, small problems lead to big panicking disasters, right? So I'm just going to go ahead with the normal installation here. And you can see that the credentials for delegation, everything is sorted out. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. Our domain name is asia.netsoftakademy.com. It's a child domain. We obviously know from the name now. The second thing is our NetBIOS name is going to be Asia. So when we set up the Exchange server, I'll tell you a little bit more about this. So for now, I'm just going to install this and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for my first Exchange server to be completely installed. As you can see, it is still on in the process of installing here. Install. Now, why am I waiting? That's the next question. The reason why I'm waiting is because I don't want two Exchange server installations, even though they're in two different domains, to actually coincide or conflict or create a new chaotic situation for me. I'll just wait for this to complete installation. I'll create a user here and I'll domain join and I'll do the prerequisite installation, all of it, but not the Exchange server installation. That's the idea. So after a little bit of waiting, you can see that my Exchange server setup is completed. This is on Nita MBXS01. This is the first mailbox server. Click on finish and then open the Exchange Management Shell. Now, once the Exchange Management Shell opens up and it says connected, then we are going to move to the Edge browser here. Now, I'm going to start the Edge browser as well, just because I would like to ensure that I get past all the necessary requirements here. So that would be right here. So I'm going to open. Yeah, as you can see, I have opened multiple windows here. To get started, close this. New in private window. Yep. And you can see that my Nita mbxs01.netsoftakademy.com is now connected. Perfect. Now, all I need to do is go to https://nita mbxs01.netsoftakademy.com/ecp/. I'm going to create the mailbox account for the user here and ensure that the user can actually access their mail services. So we'll wait for this to load up. Since everything here is connected on the Exchange Management Shell, even if I type the command get dash mailbox server, okay, I put search instead of server, but it should be that. It is not going to create a huge problem for me now. All right. So domain is NetSoft Academy. NetSoft Academy /administrator and password 1350. We'll be asked to change the time zone or select the time zone. We'll select the time zone and then we will just add the user account that we created for one of the users that we might have set up on this domain here. Now this will feel a little bit slow. This will feel a little bit slow, quite frankly, because we have too many things running here at the same time. As you can see, the ADDS02, ADDS01, all of these are running at the same time. So it is going to create a little bit of a pressure on your system. Nothing to worry about. It will be easy. It will get resolved. So I'll just wait for this and then add the user account. All right. So I'll set my time zone to Eastern time, US and Canada. Oh, yeah. 125 would be a good zoom, I guess. Yes. So now remember that this is just slow because my Exchange server is reliant on my browser, on my ADDS here, to act as the right kind of DNS server. Okay, so once I'm here, I'll just add the user account and that's it. Nothing else on MBXS01. We'll just move on to MBXS02 setup. Browse. Now there's only one user here, Bruce Lee. Okay, and save. So now we have a user blee at netsoftacademy.com. All right, so this is done. So now let's move on to ADDS02. Now you can see that this is a child domain just by looking at the name here first. Or sorry, the NetBIOS name is just Asia, but the child domain you can find out by clicking on local server and seeing right here, asia.netsoftacademy.com. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to power on NITA MBXS02. Now on MBXS02, the thing is, we don't have to worry about anything. We'll just start with the prerequisite installation and we'll just domain join prerequisite installation, Exchange server installation. We'll just start with that process here. And while we would have our NITA MBXS02 installing the Exchange server role, then we would move on to NITA ADDS03 and set it up as a forest domain or a root or tree domain, as it's also called. Oh. All right, once we are here, ncpa.cpl, properties, Internet Protocol version 4, use the following IP address. Now this one would be 172.16.10.50, 50. 172.16.10.1 is the gateway, and my preferred DNS server would be 172.16.10.40 because I want this to connect to asia.netsoftacademy.com. Okay, okay, done. Local server, workgroup, change, domain, asia.netsoftacademy.com, administrator, and password 1350. This should do the trick. As you can see, it is now part of the asia.netsoftacademy.com domain. And restart now. Now, again, when you're logging in, however, you will have to ensure that you're logging in as NetSoft Academy /administrator because you need the enterprise admin credentials here to start installing the Exchange server. Otherwise, it will not work. A domain administrator credentials will not be enough. So since it is all part of the same forest, luckily, it is still easier here. So, okay, while this is going to run, while this is going to power on, I'm just going to set up, or I'm just going to connect, mount, whatever you want to call the word for this, the Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO. And you can see that it's applying the computer changes and doing everything properly. All right, once we are here, administrator. So let us say I go for Asia/administrator, password 1350. Exchange server can still be installed, but then I have to add this user into the enterprise admins group or the Exchange authorized admins group. Both of which are a little bit unappealing options, but let's see how this proceeds. All right, first things first, I'm going to open up my File Explorer, DVD drive D, and I'm going to start the Java updater first. Then I will quickly go on to my PowerShell and I'm going to copy the command again from here. These never change. By the way, these commands never change. No matter what Exchange server you're installing or what type of role you're installing, these commands will never change. Now, while this is going to install, I'm going to start the Visual C++ 2013 installation first. Close. Microsoft Unified Communications Managed API 4.0. At some point you might think that all of these are tongue twisters. That is definitely going to happen. Finish. Now I'll still have to install the IIS URL rewrite and Java. Java, I already started the installer first. So it will show up eventually, but for the IIS URL, I'll have to wait for this command to complete. So I'll just complete those two installations and then restart, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay, so now my MBXS02 has restarted after I have set up all of the things. Now I'm going to log in. Okay, so once I'm logged in, I'm going to mount the Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO file over here. And I'm going to start the Exchange Server installation. Now, ideally, I should be running, because based on how we have been doing this, I should be running the three commands, the prepare schema, the prepare Active Directory, and the prepare all domains command. Yes, but I don't need to, because I've already run it on the first domain controller, the root domain controller, and that has all the rules necessary. So even if I don't run it again, it is not a problem. But in case you run into issues, I would recommend running those commands again just to make sure everything is fine and dandy. And then based on that, you can see what exactly is missing and then add on to it. So I'll just wait for this now. At the moment, it is just a game of waiting. My idea is I want to start the Exchange Server installation on MBXS02, then move on to ADDS03. Configure the domain controller there, and complete this one entire domain, and that start setting up that one domain separately altogether. And that would be the ideal situation in this point. So we'll just wait for this. Right? Next, next, next. Mailbox role right here. Next, next. Disable malware scanning is yes. Next. Now, right here, if we are missing anything, even if the permission isn't right, it will show up right here. During the prerequisite analysis, you will see a host of errors. If everything is right, then you can just install. If everything is wrong, then we just have to rectify the errors. See? The local domain needs to be prepared using setup prepare domain. The local domain needs to be updated. You must be a member of the domain admins group in organization management role group or enterprise admin group to continue. Remember, I did mention that you need to have enterprise admin credentials. So for that, we move back to NITA ADDS01. Now, this is important for us because if we did not know what role was necessary, we would not be able to associate that role. Click on Tools, click on Active Directory Users and Computers, click on Users, and go to Enterprise Admins. Under Members, click on Add, Locations, expand NetSoft IT Academy, NetSoft Academy, select asia.netsoftakademy.com and type in administrator and apply. Okay, done. Now let's retry again. Let's see if this changes anything. Let's see. If there are still errors, obviously we'd still have to fix those errors systematically. It's not one thing, it is a host of different things. But if that one thing fixes everything, then we are doing very well then. Credentials matter. See, again, we need to prepare the domain. So going back to NITA ADDS01, I will have to run all three commands again. Because we need to prepare the schema, we need to ensure everything is working. So let me just complete these commands. Let's try again and let's see what exactly is the result after that. Now at this point, I've run all three commands again. And I also restarted my MBXS02 just so that the user membership could be updated. I can see that I have the installation option available now. And remember, we are going to have to do this for every other domain that we add now. So either make them either make the administrator the member of the enterprise admin group, or grant and do some other way or give some other permission. Now, moving on, I'm going to just domain join my workstation 2 over here while my Exchange server is installing. and then we will look at how to create the next domain that is just a regular forest domain or a regular domain in the forest. So let me just power on my workstation. I'll just power on, I'll connect it, I'll just domain join it and then shut it down. I'm not going to be worrying about the power workstation right now. The more important point is getting the more bigger aspects of the infrastructure sorted out first. This I'm just doing so that I can wrap up that one entire domain in just one go. That's the only thing. Just making sure that everything is wrapped up in one block. Right? Let me quickly log in. Okay, once I'm logged in, I'll quickly change the IP address. This time it will be 172.16.10.60. 60. Still waiting for it. And as you can see, my MBXS02 is installing. Remember, this is 9 virtual machines in total. We are just one short of a double digit. So make sure that you are allocating resources very wisely. You're not doing something in a haste or hurry. Now, in my case, because when I was setting up these machines, I had a few issues. So I did not want Windows updates to go through while setting up. That's why I'm not connected my NAT adapters or my network adapters. I call them NAT adapters because it is network address translation. In my mind, it's just a network adapter. So it's one of those weird quirks every instructor has for their own. Okay, so this is 172.16.10.60, 172.16.10.1, 172.16.10.40. Because we just want this to connect to asia.netsoftacademy.com, not netsoftacademy.com. We don't want it to connect there. Right click this PC, properties. So this is a slower process. Now with so many resources being consumed at the same time, this will just feel a little bit sluggish. Don't worry about it, just keep chugging along. asia.netsoftacademy.com, administrator, password 1350, and that's it. This is joined to the domain. I'm going to close everything, but I'll shut down the machine. I'll not restart, I'll shut down the machine. While yes, it might look like it is a longer process of doing something, shutting down just makes it easier for me to not allocate the resources and have them available for some other application over here. So now we'll just move on. Next, we'll move on to my ADDS here. You can see that this one has lower settings than the others. That is quite frankly because I would be running very lean now on resources. You can see this is a normal server. It has nothing else. So I'm going to be setting up my third domain in the same forest. Remember that this is all being done so that you understand that the same company in the same organization can have multiple, or under the same listing can have multiple lists. So best example of understanding this is look at a company like, let's say, Rogers. Rogers has Fido, it has Chatter, and a host of other smaller network service providers. It's the same idea that the parent company is Rogers, but these are other subsidiaries that are under the same umbrella. So let me create my 10.70, 172.16.10.1, 172.16.10.70, and 172.16.10.10 is the alternate DNS server. Okay, done. Now you might have realized that I'm not going back and checking my IPs on everything because of one reason, that is I already have pointed it to the alternate DNS, that is the first root domain controller. So that is why I don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm going to add the rows and features. 3 nexts, I'll select Active Directory Domain Services, 3 nexts and install. Now I'll wait for this to complete the installation, then we will look at the next step. So now my ADDS is installed. Now I'm going to promote the server to a domain controller, add a new domain to an existing forest, and under this, we have the option of child domain or tree domain. This is going to be a tree domain. The forest name, remember the forest name is only going to be NetSoft Academy. Now the new forest name or the new domain name would be neta.local. You click on change for the credentials. And for this one, remember again, it is going to be administrator at netsoftakademy.com. And the password 1350. Next. Now, if everything is correct, it will let you move forward. Otherwise, you'll get stuck here. Keep that in mind. Don't use the forest domain name. Use the forest name. The name of the forest is the name of the first domain or the root domain. And that is the name of the root domain was netsoftakademy.com. And the NetBIOS name was only NetSoft Academy. Now, this is right now trying to connect and check if it is able to communicate with my ADDS01. And you see it has been able to communicate. So that means everything is working fine. We are good here. So I'm just going to promote the server to a domain controller, and remember that is not it now. We will have to add this user, the administrator for this domain, in the enterprise admin group, and then we will have to run the commands again. So I'll be doing that step as well, and I'll show you what exactly will happen again or how to do it again. So let me quickly complete this process here. When this restarts, then we'll look at the next steps. Now at this point, my NETA ADDS03 has finally restarted. Now, one thing, just remember that all of this is too much load. So you have to be a little bit cautious about how you're doing this scenario. Don't barge into it. Don't try to charge into it without thinking ahead. First plan, then execute. So now again here, I'm going to add one OU. I'm going to add one OU and one user. Now we should have done the same thing on ADDS02 as well. So we'll go back and do the same thing just to make sure that there is one user everywhere. So here the OU will be, let's say, Montreal. Montreal, and the user will be, let's say, Jetly. Jaylee. Okay, password never expires. Next, and passwords don't match. And finish. Now, I've also done one more thing. It's the fact that I have actually just domain joined my NETA MBXS03, and I've shut down the machine because my MBXS02 is still setting up, in the process of setting up. So now I will first go to ADDS02. Now, because there's so many machines, it is a possibility that I might have forgotten if I had created the user or not. There's no denying that, but here you can see I have it. So I'm going to create a OU called France, and under France, I'll have a user called Paris Hilton. Or maybe let's just go for somebody like Bill Walsh. Easier names so that we can actually work around with it. B Walsh, password 1350, password 1350, uncheck this, password never expires, next, finish. All right. Now going all the way to Nita ADDS01. Why? Because I would like to add the administrator user of Nita.local to the enterprise admins group before I start the process, and I'd also like to run my 3 commands first. So again, enterprise admins group here, members, add, locations, select Nita.local and administrator. See, because of the immense number of connections that are here, it is going to be a little bit tricky. It is going to be a little bit tricky. So I'll wait for this to complete, because anyway, once it completes, it will show up here. It is right now looking up the entire directory at the moment of Nita.local. Right, and it is saying that, oh, there doesn't exist a user called Nita.local. Oh, sorry, administrator. That's perfectly okay. It happens all the time. Nothing to worry about. Now, the problem is you can't do this task from that side. You'll have to do it from here every single time. And if I push this anymore, you can see that it goes into not responding. And I'll have to close the program. And that is in and itself a little bit of a hassle. But now nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Now there is another role that you can assign, and that falls under Microsoft Exchange security groups, and that is the organization management role here. You can click on members, you can click on add, locations, Nita.local, okay. And now in case this doesn't work, you can always go back to Nita ADDS03. Click on users here. You'll not see enterprise admins or anything, but you can change your domain here. You can change the domain, select NetSoft Academy, okay. And under this, you can just add the user as you see fit. This also is an option. Microsoft is very smart, they know, but you see here, I can't add anything. So this does have a drawback. There are certain disadvantages of this as well. And so it's not a problem. It's not a problem. I could change the domain from right here as well. Browse, nita.local. Okay. Okay, let's see. Now, this is one of those cases when too many things going on can create a little bit of a chaotic situation. Now, at the moment, I'll just wait for my setup to complete and then focus on it, because there's literally too many things happening at the moment here. And you can see that my resources on my computer is struggling with this. So we'll just wait for this. Now, after a little bit of working around, I just figured out that we don't really need to do that altogether. We could just log in to the virtual machine as the enterprise admin account as long as it is part of the same forest. So right now here, if I click on, let's say, server manager here, and this is my MBXS03, by the way. It is part of this account, and you can see that it is the administrator, but I have logged in as a different administrator. So let me explain what exactly I did. So let me just restart this. You can see there's no power options. This is one of the situations wherein you are stuck with a lot of problems here. But it is a potential solution for everything. So I'll explain this in a minute. I think in the meantime, our MBXS02 will be done. As you can see, it is done. Finish. I'll open my Exchange Management shell first. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. I'll open my Exchange Management shell. I'll copy this part here, this link here. I'll open my Edge browser. I'll just wait for it to connect first. Once it is connected, I'll just create the user account or user mailbox there. And then we will just move forward to installing the third and final Exchange server. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit taxing. It is a little bit draining. It is going to be a bit difficult. So it is okay. Don't worry too much about it. No matter how many times I say it, I am only saying it because I have the obligation to let you know that this isn't as easy as it looks. But that doesn't mean that it is very difficult. See, it still isn't connected here. We'll have to wait for it to connect. Once it is connected, then we will be able to log in and then we will be able to set up the user account for the user that has been created here. So I'll wait for this. Okay, so on Exchange Server 02, we have set up everything. Now, due to a lack of a lot of things, this will not work here. It's okay. So I'm going to close it. I'm going to go to MBXS01 here. I'll click on Add User Mailbox and I'll click on Browse under Existing Users. And you can see that Bill Walsh from asia.netsoftacademy.com is actually available as a mailbox, valid mailbox user because the domain actually has a mailbox. I click on Save and you can see even the username again is Bill B. Walsh at netsoftacademy.com. So if I click on Edit and I change the domain name here, you can see this. I can save it. I can just have that set up there and click on Save. But even then, the domain name or the email address will be the same. Okay, fine. Now let's move on to Nita MBXS03. Now I was explaining this earlier that because there are too many moving parts here, too many big moving parts here. I was explaining this earlier that you don't necessarily need to sign in as the domain administrator. You could do this. Because the idea is that you need to have the enterprise admin credentials to be able to sign in and install the Exchange server. And you could just do it like this. So I just logged in as the enterprise admin for NetSoft Academy. So while this is happening here, I'm going to copy my command, go back to MBXS03, mount the Exchange server hybrid deployment or the Microsoft 365 hybrid deployments ISO. Open PowerShell. Wait for the VMware tools to kick in or paste the command and just run the command. Start all the installations as planned. As normal, nothing changing over here. Now, after this, however, or during this is while this is happening, before I start the Exchange, so you can see that there are a few things that you do not have adequate user rights. See, even if I'm logged in as the administrator, sometimes this could happen for certain things. It's okay. It's not a big problem. I'll fix it. But this is one of those things again. You can see that I can sign out and I can change the account settings. I can do a lot of things again. If I sign out, and let us say I sign in as Nita /administrator, password 1350. I go to PowerShell and I run the commands. They will run for sure. But I'm going to eventually hit the barrier wherein I'll not be able to install Exchange server. So let's do it that way. Why not? Let's do it that way first. Let's first get the prerequisites installed and then think about the others. You can see here that the VMware tools are still loading up. I'll have to copy it multiple times. You can see this one here as well. Automatic refresh failed. It's just a small issue in the long list of issues that are available. So while this is running, hopefully this should be done this time. I'm going to start Java. I'm going to start Microsoft Visual C++. Install Microsoft Unified Communications Managed API. You see that as as the infrastructure gets bigger, it gets more complex. And with complexity comes obviously a lot of complications. Now, I should technically be able to add this user as the enterprise admin on ADDS01 all the way at the beginning here. Now, you see how many machines I have. With the amount of machines I have, it is almost impossible for me to keep a track of every single thing. Because you see it's saying, oh, the server is not operational. No. All of these things happen. These are very small things that happen mostly because of different kind of problems. Let us say I type administrator. A child domain was added like this, but this is a little bit further away. It has to communicate. Everything has to work. So it could be a very small issue, something as simple as on ADDS03, if I go on local server and I check my IP addresses, something as simple as this could be a problem because you see here, it is not connected to 172.16.10.10. It is connected to 172.16.10.70. That is the true cause of the problem. So this is the reason why it's not able to communicate. When the first domain control, the root domain control is not able to communicate, it will not be able to understand or it will not be able to add any rules. See, small things lead to bigger problems. Let's try again. We will have to close this though. You see, it's not responding again. Close the program, cancel. Tools, Active Directory users and computers, users, enterprise admins, members, add, locations, neta.local, administrator. Now, it should be able to resolve. It should be able to resolve. But it will still take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to give it the time to resolve. And I'll focus my efforts on prerequisite installation here. Now, all of this is very incredibly heavy lifting because, quite frankly, IP addresses, things, this, that, a lot of things are messy in here. And this is IT in a nutshell. This is IT in a nutshell. You see, even if I'm connecting to neta.local, the domain is still showing netsoftakademy.com. You see, this is netsoftakademy.com. So ideally, everything is connected from one domain to the last one. So again, like I said, we'll just focus first on making sure that all of these services are installed properly. And then we will focus on the permissions because there has to be a solution. It cannot just be left that, okay, hey, we can't fix it. We have to solve the problem. So we'll solve the problem when we get there now. So I'll just wait for this to complete and install the last module and restart this server. Now, after a little bit of just moving around and finding out the right thing, I have been able to add, as you can see here, the administrator from Neta. So the easiest way to do it is by going to tools, clicking on DNS and creating a DNS conditional forwarder. That way, both places know where to look for and who to look for. And that makes life a little bit easier. So I have multiple programs running here. That's one of the reasons why this is. So the specified user is not found. If the user exists in another Active Directory domain controller in the enterprise, it may take 15 minutes or more for the user to be replicated to the global catalog. So at the moment, it will take around 15 minutes. So I'll wait for 15 minutes and try again. But I can now technically, I can go to Active Directory users and computers. I could change the domain, netsoftakademy.com. Okay. And under netsoftakademy.com, I could query the enterprise admins here. So I can't add the members. You can see that I can't add the members, but I can query every single thing. Similarly, on ADDS01, if I go back again to Active Directory users and computers, I go to Microsoft Exchange groups and organization management. I click on add, I select locations, nita.local and admin. You can see that it is applying, but it is saying that it will take 15 minutes to be replicated to the global catalog. That's a small thing. That's a very small thing. It is able to look up the user. That's the bigger thing here. So that is one problem resolved. So while this is happening, I will simply go to my MBXS03 and finish up everything else that is remaining now. I know I did say that I'm going to complete the installations and do everything right, but I just waited for all of this to complete and also fix the problem as we speak. So I'm restarting the computer here. Now I'll wait. I'll have to wait for it for a little bit. I'll wait for it, not a problem. So while I'm waiting, I can go to ADDS01, open PowerShell, and run prepare all domains command again. Because I added one more domain, I'm going to prepare all domains. This will make my life a little bit easier when I am moving ahead with any other installation now. So I'll wait for this command to complete, give the entire global catalog some time, refresh the replication and everything, and then it should all work ideally. Okay, so after a few minutes, I've been able to add the administrator as a member because I was able to synchronize everything. I just ran a command to synchronize all the data on my this thing, and I'm now going to go towards running all the commands again because there were a few things that don't work, that don't have this issue or that have that issue. It just keeps happening. So I'll just start completing this, and at the same time I'll also start the Exchange Server installer there, only the installer. Remember, I'm just doing this so that I don't run out of resources before I complete the scenario, not because it is getting a little bit too much for me. Now, after a few minutes and after waiting for a little bit, you can see that this is my Nita MBXS03, my third Exchange server, and it is ready for installation. So I'm going to click on install, and now I'll just wait for this to install. So at this point, I have two Exchange servers already installed. This is going to be my third. I'm going to connect domain join my third workstation, and that will be the end of the entire infrastructure part. Once that is done, once every user has an email, the next step would be to send an email to all the users from one of the computers. So let me quickly navigate to the third workstation, the third and final workstation, the ninth machine of this equation here. And remember, at one point, all 9 will be operating, all 9. So better be a little bit careful. You can't have your domain controllers not running, by the way. That's not an option. Same goes for your mail servers. You can't have them not running. All of them have to be functional. All of them have to be running. There is no getting around that fact. So I'm just going to domain join this computer. And once it is domain joined and my Exchange server is installed, then we will look at the next last few steps now. Okay, so my Exchange setup is now completed on Nita MBXS03. Perfect. And my computer is domain joined as my workstation is domain joined as well. As you already know, I'm going to open the Exchange management shell, not the PowerShell. As I was busy talking, I did not realize I was opening PowerShell. It's just a force of habit. But I'll open the Exchange management shell. I'll wait for this to connect, and I will navigate back to Nita MBXS01. Now we are hitting the final step or the final phase of this entire process where I'm going to now use the workstations to log in, send an email, and verify if the email is being received. So all I need to do is just make sure that this is connected here, and then I can just move on to the next step. That is, I'll go to Nita MBXS01 and I'll add the user there. So we'll just wait for this to come quickly connect and then look at the next step. Okay, as you can see, my Exchange server is connected. So now I will quickly navigate to MBXS01, and you can see here that I was already verifying everything was okay or not. So you can see that I have all of these things. If I click on recipients, I refresh the users again here. You see, I have 3 administrators here. Administrator 1, administrator 2, administrator. So this is why we are creating independent users. So I'll click on new, user mailbox, browse from existing user, and you can see Jetly Nita.local Montreal. Click OK, save. Now even Jetly will also have this entire jlee@netsoftakademy.com, that email address. Now, this is all 3 users now have a mailbox. So now let us look at how the users are going to access the mailbox. So first, I'll go to Nita Workstation 01. I'll power on this virtual machine. Workstation 01, it's very simple. You go to Nita ADDS01, you log in as, I think it is Bruce Lee, it's Bruce Lee here, then Bill Walsh, and then the other one. Now, this is one of the reasons why you don't use the same types of names. You kind of get a little bit confused, but it's okay. It's a smaller problem. It's a good problem to have rather than having a problem that you would not understand. B Lee, password 1350. Yep, that's the right one. So now while this is happening, I'll also go navigate to my workstation 2, and I'll also power on this virtual machine and I'll log in as B Walsh or Bill Walsh. This is just so that all the users are logged in first in sequence. And same for workstation 3. I'll log in as Jetly, and I want to do all of this just so that I can ensure that I send an email and at the same time I can see the email is being received. J Lee. Oh, this is not J Lee. This is B Walsh. Password 1350. All right, let me go to the last workstation, that is workstation 03. Now, all of these are running on minimum specs. Remember that all of these are running on minimum specs. So since they're running on minimum specs, there is a fair chance that it might feel a little bit slower. They don't quite have the memory that or the resources available to them that the other computers have for them. Now, this automatically means that the third domain is the poor man's domain, basically, right? So make sure that that doesn't happen. It's a bad thing to go around having that kind of a problem. All right, so I'm logging in as Jetly. Now, while this is happening, while the user is being signed in here, I go back to workstation 1, right click Edge, new in private window. All right, so wait. Sometimes, like I said, lack of memory causes certain graphical elements to not listen to me. as I plan them forward. netsoftaccademy.com/OWA/. Now I'm going to copy this link here. I'm going to copy this link here because this is the same link that will be used for everyone. All right. So NetSoft Academy backslash, oh, not administrator. This is Bruce Lee. Password 1350, sign in. We're going to send one email, one very simple email. Then that email's context would be just to verify if email flow is working as planned. All the Exchange servers are working as planned. New to B. Walsh and Jet Li. Now I'm not CCing the administrators because there's no point now. There are too many administrators to see. Test email. This email is to verify mail flow and to confirm that all users receive the email even when they are in different domains. And I'm going to hit send. It's a very simple email. You see it's in my drafts for a minute here. You will see that it will be in my draft because now it has to go and you see it's gone. Okay, perfect. So that means mail flow is working. There's no loop, there's no bounce back, there's nothing else going wrong. So now I go to workstation 02. On workstation 02, I open an in private window again. Now this is interesting. I paste nita mbxs01.netsoftaccademy.com/OWA/ and I enter, I'll be asked to do this. Continue. Now this is where things change. Asia /B Walsh and password 1350. You see, I was able to log in because even though the user is different, it is a completely different ballgame. And I can see the email from Bruce Lee is here. Perfect. Now I'm not going to reply to this email. I'll just navigate to my third workstation. The reason why I'm not replying to the email is quite simply because this will take too many resources at the same time. So I want to minimize my resource consumption as much as possible or maximize my time with my resources here. Again, advanced, continue. So this one will again be nita /J Lee, password 1350. And you see that I'm able to log in. Now, once I'm done with this, once I've verified mail flow, now let me change the mail pointing address here for a second. So the email is here. So that means the mail flow is working and that is done. So now if I try, let us say https://nita mbxs03.nita.local/ec/owa/ and I press on enter, you will see that it will not connect or this will show up. Okay. And you do this nita /J Lee, password 1350. It doesn't make a big difference. So that is why I use that. So that is the end of our scenario. Thank you, and I hope you learned something from the scenario. And please make sure that you do the scenario multiple times to understand what exactly is happening and how permissions and a lot of different aspects play a role in this. Thank you.
Thank you for watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftacademy.com. www.netsoftacademy.com.